that leads us to this next thing here, which is ransomware. This is a really big deal, because what ends up happening is it encrypts the victim's resources. Then it demands payment to decrypt. Now, we partnered with the Department of Homeland Security and did a bunch of events up in the great state of New York last year on ransomware. This is the nastiest type of malware that is out there. It is absolutely awful. We've had close to 10 different ransomware over the past 2 years, where customers who were not ours came to us with issues that they were having. And typically, ransomware comes from misconfiguration of external device. So what does that mean? That means that a firewall or a remote access server or something that is a company's asset that's on the internet is misconfigured. So when I think of misconfigured, I think of misconfiguration is I turn it over to one of our interns. I tell them to install something for me and get it up and running. And they come back in 10 minutes and say, I got it all running. Oh, okay. What does that mean? That means that they just said next, finish. Well, I could have done that. So what does that mean? That means that it may have blatant holes that are open. And if so, those could be potentially exploited. And so typically that's what we see, is that the misconfiguration of any of these external devices, and it very well may be, I know it sounds awful, default, user, and password. So that is typically one of the biggest issues that we see for corporate networks being compromised. And for many others that are out there, there is websites like this that if you think about at your house, what kind of device are you running at your house? Don't say it out loud. Let's say here that it is, I don't know, a Linksys device that's running at your house. So if we come out and use our default passwords database here, blank and admin, we'll try that. Maybe we'll try admin and then no password. Maybe we'll try admin. We'll try all of these different user IDs and passwords when we're doing a penetration test, and when we're doing an assessment on something to see if it's configured that way. And so the attackers know how to do that as well, and typically they'll find it. And if this is what is protecting you from the internet, then you're probably in trouble. So with ransomware, what ends up happening is, I'm going to use your scenario earlier where you said if your hard drive's encrypted. Well, that's exactly what it does, is it'll go through and encrypt the hard drive, and then it has the only keys that are out there. Typically, those keys are RSA, which is an asymmetric cryptography, 2048-bit encryption, which mathematicians estimate would take 1 million years to crack. And we've had a number of cases where 20, 50, 700 machines on a network have been compromised. And so you cannot get anything off of those machines. Windows will still boot up, but all that, all your documentation that you had on there, it's encrypted now. And so it's pretty much a useless machine at that point. So it's very, very nasty. Good chance that you'll see something on your exam that says almost identical to the definitions here. Encrypts victim resources and demands payment. Those should be keywords that lead you to the water and answer that correctly. The rootkits are another type of malware that we typically will see that hides malicious processes, or it will hide its malicious activities in a process. So I talked about the processes before. What does that mean? That means that here on my machine, I have all these processes that are running by default on Windows, right? All of these things are what's running in the background. So what will rootkit do? It'll hide itself on a machine running in the background and take over one of those processes. Typically it will have root access, which root is pretty much equal to God access. So you can do pretty much anything you want on a machine with root because you're the administrator. Andrew, you want to add anything there, or are you falling asleep on me?
I mean, you know, Ben, you've been killing it tonight. So I know rootkits and ransomware just from, you know, my testing experience. I saw both of those terms on the test, and in my real world experience, rootkits and ransomware have both been the biggest pains in the neck to deal with. In both instances, to recover from those attacks, you're looking at you're gonna have to wipe a hard drive and reinstall the OS.